going to talk about Minnesota. Things have been getting wild over there. First of all, we caught a whole bunch of fraud. Second, we had ICE to show up and start trying to figure out what's been going on with all that fraud, along with the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI and all kinds of crap like that. And then protests started showing up because some crazy lady decided to try and run over one of these ICE officers, and then it ended up getting shot for it and tragically lost her life. Unfortunately, tragic loss of life. However, it is sort of to be expected, especially whenever you're trying to attack a federal law enforcement officer. But, like I predicted in my stream back then and in my videos, if you've been following me, they're going to try and turn this into the George Floyd 2.0, and that's exactly what's happening, especially since apparently there's a lot more crazy stuff that's been going on. So we're going to jump right into that, and we're going to see what's been happening there. This is Fox News. This is some Bovino, I guess he's one of the Border Patrol agents, says that the Minneapolis suspect appeared to want to do quote-unquote maximum harm. So the thing that I have with that, apparently there was another ICE shooting it's unrelated to Renee Good back then. So we're going to see this is a second shooting where unfortunately there was another tragic loss of life. We're going to see what they say about what's been going on and about whether or not the suspect was intending on doing damage to the police officers and to the protesters at large. I mean, they're already they get up in these ICE guys' faces, right? They are trying their best to put themselves in harm's way as often as possible, daring something like this to happen, and then they want to cry victim whenever something like this does happen, right? I'm not gonna strap a bunch of sausages to me and then run out into the woods and try and make friends with some bears and some wolves, right? It's probably a bad idea, and then I'm not gonna pretend that I'm a victim whenever I get eaten, right? So let's find out what's been going on there.
At 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, Jose Huerta Chuma. You can see this illegal alien on the screen to my left and right. That is Jose Huerta Chuma, whose criminal history includes domestic assault to intentionally inflict bodily harm, disorderly conduct.
Okay, already not looking good for the suspect here. Apparently, he has a history of assault and criminal misconduct. Okay,
and driving without a valid license.
Okay, all right. So the dude has a rap sheet, and that's to be expected at this point.
During this operation,
keep in mind the ICE officers, the reason that they know where these people are and the reason that they can go and find them is because they've already committed crimes and they're in the registry. And so all that needs to happen is they need to work with the local police department and get the information that they need in order to find out how to catch this guy with minimal impact to the community. Unfortunately, they're not being helped by the local law enforcement, so they have to kind of go door to door, and so it causes larger impacts, but they still get the job done as fast as they possibly can. And honestly, these guys are fucking heroes for it, especially since the state governments don't want to help them at all.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Also, 9mm handguns are usually always semi-automatic. But anyway, semi-automatic just means it shoots one round at a time. That's all. They use the word semi-automatic to make it seem worse than it is, but that's how they pump it up in the news.
The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted.
Oh.
Fearing...
Well, it's on his rap sheet that he violently resists too, right? So this isn't really a surprise to anybody. Again, this is me learning about this for the first time. So I'm trying to figure out why people are shocked that things like this happen whenever you are you're attacking police officers who have every right and authority to defend themselves and kill you.
For his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID.
Okay, so what you're telling me is he brought a handgun with 2 loaded magazines, meaning he Well, that I hate to say that is um, like a clear sign of him wanting to do maximum harm, because like honestly, maybe he was just trying to defend himself and he was worried that one magazine might not be enough. I mean, there's usually only like 15 rounds in those things, so
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Then, about 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement.
I am surprised that only the one guy was pronounced dead at the scene, because if I'm a law enforcement official and I know that the media has been telling every single person in the community to hate me and attack me, whenever I see a mob running at me, I'm going to freak out a little bit, probably.
Crowd control measures have been deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. This situation is evolving, and more information is forthcoming. The officer was highly trained and had been serving as a Border Patrol agent for 8 years. The officer has extensive training as a range safety officer and less lethal officer.
Well, I'm glad that this guy had the training and experience that he did, because if he didn't, a lot of people probably could have been hurt, especially if you kind of mob attack an officer, like flat out.
As mentioned, this is only the latest attack on law enforcement.
Like, I don't care if they just had a shovel or a bat or something like that. Those can be lethal weapons. Like, especially if they're being held by a mob of people and you're getting hit by more than one person, you could definitely die.
Across the country, the men and women of DHS have been attacked, shot at, doxxed, had their family members threatened. And
I mean, we knew that was going to happen, right? Like as soon as they took the paperwork out of the back of that ICE or CBP car, they doxed a whole bunch of people, right? Like the suspects that they were going after, their information was in there, right? Like the officers that were going after these people, their information was in there, right? Like they got guns, they got equipment, it was pretty crazy. But I mean, yeah, no, it makes sense that they're getting doxed a lot, especially since they gave them all their, well, they didn't give them the information, they got it and nobody really cared to go and try and get it back.
As we have seen more than 100 vehicle rammings over the past year against federal law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers, and we need state and local help, state and local law enforcement, to help us coordinate to get violent criminals off the streets. Mayor Fry and Chief O'Hare just a few minutes ago did the opposite of that by omitting the fact that the suspect had a gun and magazines full of ammunition. In what looks like a situation, again, where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, it is a problem, like, especially if this guy was an illegal immigrant that was also like a criminal with a rap sheet of violent assaults. Like, it's really bad for him to have a gun. Even if he's not an illegal immigrant, if you have like violent assaults on your record, I don't think you would be allowed to own a gun anyway. Like even if you were like an average American citizen. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of problems here, and I can see why the officers were fearful for their lives, because it just makes sense, right?
I want to reiterate what President Donald Trump, Secretary Kristi Noem, myself, Director Marcos Charles, and so many others have said time and again. If you obstruct a law enforcement officer or assault a law enforcement officer, you are in violation of the law and will be arrested. Our law enforcement officers take an oath to protect the public.
Absolutely. Absolute W. Yeah, absolutely. If you attack a law enforcement officer, you 1000% should be arrested. And honestly, if your attack is intentionally trying to kill them and something happens to you, it's kind of on you now, isn't it?
Public. We go to work every day to protect our friends, our neighbors, and our fellow citizens. The fact of the matter is that the law does not enforce itself. It takes men and women who are willing to risk their lives to enforce it. The men and women of CBP and ICE, law enforcement, are highly trained professionals who love this country and do this work because they want to leave their kids and their grandkids a country that's safe and secure. Questions?
Okay, yeah, going into questions. Yeah, that's like dude. Minneapolis is becoming a freaking war zone, dude. The Democratic Party keeps calling for there to be more violent attacks and like more quote unquote resistance against federal law enforcement officers, and then everybody's gonna look shocked and act shocked whenever more resistance toward federal law enforcement officers actually happens, right? Like, and I'm betting, because we already know that a lot of these people are paid, so I'm betting that the Democratic Party is also thinking hundreds of millions of dollars into each and every one of these protests, intentionally trying to stir up a civil war in this country. And I don't think that Trump is going to allow it this time. I think we are going to flex our federal muscles a little bit, and I do think that we're going to end up shutting this down. But it is getting absolutely crazy. And you know how I know that? I know that because here is News Nation on YouTube, okay? The National Guard has been activated in Minneapolis after the Border Patrol shootings, okay? This thing that we just talked about where the guy tried to attack federal law enforcement officer and he had like a loaded handgun. There's a rap sheet that has violent assaults on it. He was not wearing an ID. He had 2 different magazines. Like, guys, what is happening here? That you call for an attack against law enforcement officers, that's what you're going to get. What the hell is going on? Anyway, so this is News Nation on YouTube. National Guard has been activated in Minneapolis after the Border Patrol shootings. This is on Good or Morning in America, I guess. Anyway, definitely go and check them out. I'll link it in the description of my videos. While you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe to me. Definitely follow me on Kick and follow me on X and subscribe to me on Rumble if you're one of those guys that doesn't like YouTube. Which no, I don't judge. I don't judge at all. But definitely don't watch my videos and not subscribe because that's not cool, right?
Governor Tim Walz has mobilized the state's National Guard to help with safety around a federal building in Minneapolis. Let's bring in former NYPD detective and current professor of law at New York Law School, Kirk Burkhalter. Kirk, always great to see you. Welcome.
Everybody be quiet. Black man is talking.
Back, sir.
Same here. Good morning.
Good morning. From a local law enforcement standpoint, what does having the National Guard activated mean for police and sheriff deputies when it comes to their day-to-day jobs?
Well, it's very interesting. While at first blush, this may seem like an action.
She's one of those women that you can tell like is not attractive without her makeup, right? Like these women shapeshift. It's not fair. It's not fair at all.
And that is likely to help and quell things. However, what do we have here? We have one more agency that is in the mix here with regards to law enforcement. And keep in mind, as far as the National Guard is concerned, similar to other military organizations and even ICE and the Border Patrol, they are not trained for this mission. So
they are not. You know who is trained for this mission? The United States National Guard. These guys are actual Army members. They don't do all that much because, they stay here stateside and they only work out like once a week, or once a month, excuse me. I was giving them far too much credit. I give them shit, but that's okay. It's fine. It's whatever. It's a thing. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, so they are specifically trained to go into highly densely populated urban environments and handle crowd control specifically. So yeah,
it really depends on what their directive is. What is their?
And honestly, if the rules of engagement are too restricting, they can get creative, right? Like I'm just saying, like manure cannons are not off the table.
Mission. It would seem the primary mission here at this particular point in time is to keep the peace between the civilian population and the federal authorities.
That would probably generally be seen as a good idea, if you're on the right side of the political aisle. If you're on the wrong side of the political aisle, much like the left is increasingly more often nowadays, you really don't like it because then you have to work with the federal government and you can't be seen working with Trump. And you have to support the military, which you can't be seen doing because, well, then you can't support the military. I mean, come on now.
Being mindful that the federal authorities, as far as ICE, the Border Patrol.
Dude, the Democratic base being increasingly more radicalized has become like their greatest downfall, and it's awesome to watch. Definitely subscribe. We're going to chronicle all of it.
They're not going anywhere at this point, given what the president has said, and they're not obligated to heed the request of local political officials. So
We are not obligated to listen to you. Fuck all of you. We're taking charge because you're too stupid to do it yourselves. And I fucking love it. Shut these states down, baby.
only time will tell what
Sure.
will happen with this move.
This shooting took place at a public protest, as you well know. What will investigators want to hear from witnesses and observers who were on the scene?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question because
That seemed pretty straightforward, but yeah, okay, whatever. Well, what do they want to see from people on the scene? Yeah, well, I would say we want to see some peaceful protests. We want to see some peaceful organizations. Shout whatever things you want to, but respect the law enforcement that are there. Give them their space, and don't try and hurt them and run them over with your cars. Maybe that should be some good middle ground, right?
perhaps a year ago, if you asked me what would investigators want to hear, I would think about it from a more objective standpoint. But what we're seeing here is depends on who the investigators are. The normal operating procedure would be to scrub every piece of video that's available, to interview persons on the scene. We've heard various comments as to why the decedent was at the scene, but we really don't know why. So certainly one thing investigators would want to know is why he was at the scene, what his intentions were as far as what he expressed. And this also includes interviewing and all of the law enforcement officials that were present. What did they see? When did they see it? In particular, when did they see the firearm? What made them feel threatened?
What do you mean, what made them feel threatened? There was a mob of people. One of them had a gun, and they're being told on a daily basis by every major news network to assault police officers and resist against them. What do you mean, what made them think it? This guy is trying to run defense, and I don't understand why. You clearly should not attack federal law enforcement. What the hell is happening here? I thought it was common sense that if you attacked a police officer, you might die.
And so forth. So investigators will have to comb through a great deal of information.
They're trying to turn this into George Floyd 2.0. They want there to be the Summer of Love 2026. You fucking bet me on this. Minneapolis, if Trump does not take charge and the military does not shut this down, Minneapolis and many other large left-leaning fucking cities that have been controlled by Democrats for the last 50 years is going to be on fucking fire this summer. You watch.
Our hope is that it will be an objective investigation.
Kirk, from your law enforcement perspective, what are the biggest questions you have right now?
Biggest question I have at this time was from one of those particular videos. When did law enforcement see the weapon, and was the weapon recovered?
Yes, the weapon was recovered, as far as I know.
Prior to or after the shots being fired? I mean, at this point, that's kind of the whole ball of wax, because if it was recovered prior to the shots being fired, then clearly...
Hold on, wait a second. So you're telling me they took the gun away from him and then shot him? Or hold on, what?
This would have been excessive force unless there was some form of reasonable mistake. If it was recovered after the shots were fired, then perhaps the law enforcement officers could express that they feared for their lives. That's the biggest question here right now.
The department...
Honestly, I think the bigger question is whether or not, like, if one of these ICE officers were to actually get assaulted and be laying on the street bleeding out, would anybody even show up to help him? Like, would local emergency services even show up to help him? Because we know that in some of these places they've been literally directed to stand down by their local governance, right? So, like, I wonder, and so you got to think, how terrified are these guys whenever they're in these situations and they know that they're there alone, right? They stand alone. They walk through the fire alone. And it's really, really sad because there are so many people and there are so many Americans, especially like the law-abiding citizens, that want to see these guys taken care of, and they're not being taken care of. And it really is an eye-opener, and I really hope that the people that live in these cities wake up to the fact that their local government would rather harm local law enforcement than fix the problems in their cities, right? Like, then fix the fraud, then fix the crime rates, then get rid of the illegal aliens. Like, dude. Also, I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read somewhere that they've already deported enough people for Minnesota to lose one congressional seat. So that's like one away from the Democrats now. So that's kind of funny. Anyway.
Department of Homeland Security says Preddy approached them with a handgun. He resisted when federal officers tried to disarm him. But there are so many reports, multiple reports, disputing that account. Talk about the importance of the gun as this investigation moves forward.
Well, these statements seem to be a bit premature in that the investigation has not been thoroughly conducted. Yes,
Thank
the
you.
gun is very important. I'm always a little disturbed, and not just here, but broadly speaking, when law enforcement
Okay, so we know that they recovered the gun then. All right, all right. The question is, did they take the gun away from him before they shot him, which doesn't make any sense to me, but hey.
releases a photo of a gun somewhere that clearly shows, or perhaps shows, that it has yet to be entered into evidence. You know, I want to see that gun with a tag, and I want to be able to know where it was recovered from. So,
Is that barrel broken? Did...
the reports are that he possessed this firearm legally. What's important about the gun is whether or not he removed it from his person, whether he brandished it in some shape or form.
A lawsuit by county officials in Minnesota is seeking to prevent the destruction of evidence related to this fatal shooting. It has been temporarily granted by a federal judge. I asked you from a law enforcement point of view, now as a law professor, how do you expect this ruling to impact what we learned in this investigation thus far?
I mean, definitely we need to get down to the bottom of this, but also, again, the incredible amount of stress and fear that these federal law enforcement officials are going to be under on a day-to-day basis while they are out there in the streets, like in the shit, you know what I mean? Like, and they know that they're alone. They know that there's not going to be anybody from local law enforcement that's going to help them. And the reason that they have to go to door is because local law enforcement won't actually help them, won't tell them which door to go to. So they have to keep going around and asking. And, oh my God, dude.
Kirk.
Well, it's a very important ruling given the
Oh yeah, and then Minnesota changed its flag to look more like the Somalian flag, which, you know, fucking wild, right?
incident with Renee Good, and we recall the agents were left the scene, and to this date, as far as my knowledge is concerned, we haven't seen an objective investigation and a
There is no need for an investigation. There was a whole video about it. Like, she hit him with the car and he shot her.
collection, and if there has been a collection of forensic data from this
I don't know anything about this guy, but it's a tragic loss. I don't think that it should have happened, but also, if he was, you know, threatening a law enforcement officer with his gun, then what happens, right?
scene, it hasn't been released. So this is extremely important because there's a high likelihood, if there was some improper behavior, enough where there is certainly some type of lower threshold, state may bring charges against the Border Patrol agents who fired their weapons. What will happen with that, we don't know, whether that would even proceed all the way through to trial or whatever the case. But
Would the state even be able to charge a federal law enforcement officer? Like, I wonder.
here, that's at least likely, given this court ruling.
So yeah, no, that's the crazy that's happening in Minnesota right now. Unfortunately, you know, you kind of get what you get whenever you you roll the dice. You fuck around, you find out. You know what I mean? So like, if you knowing the incredible amounts of tension that are at these protests, especially now, especially given the rhetoric by the mainstream media on both sides of the fence, right? Like everybody, like we paint all the protesters as you know, they're all like crazy pink-haired cow ladies, and to be fair, a lot of them are. And then the left paints all of the ICE officers as though they're just like Nazi Gestapo that are showing up and just like jackboot thugs ripping people off the streets, when in reality they're being very methodical and very precise about the people that they go after, or as best as they can anyway, given that they're not getting help by these state law enforcement officials. But anyway, all of my links will be linked in the description below. So yeah, just follow and like and all that, and on Wednesday we're going to be doing some fun stuff because I don't really intend to talk about politics on Wednesday. So definitely join me on Kick for those streams. That would be awesome. Alright, see you later guys, bye.